Tiffany Henyard vows the show will go on.
You told us on election day we haven't heard the last of you. What's next for you?
It's a lot next for me. Stay tuned.
We are fast approaching the end of an era. As talked about on this channel before, the corrupt Super Mayor Tiffany A. Henyard has lost her position in the village of Dolton. She has been ousted in the Dolton Township, and very soon, in the not too distant future, she will no longer be an elected official. However, we do have interesting updates on the Super Mayor saga, because on this channel we previously reported that she was making over $250,000, but clearly under $300,000 in salary in these two positions. However, it was just revealed by the local news with one final audit that the Super Mayor was making well over $300,000, and in fact, her corrupt travel, where she was flying first class to all these different various locations, was actually incentivized with another program that gave her $600 a day in order to travel outside of the village of Dolton, outside of the state of Illinois, and of course, go on vacation on the taxpayer dime. Now, it's absolutely crazy from top to bottom, but the craziest thing is that they still find supporters of Tiffany A. Henyard in and around this area, and they say ridiculously stupid things like this.
I think she's doing what men have been doing for years as far as her security and all those things. She needs that.
She give back to the community, so, I mean, what more can people ask for?
Now look, I've given the residents of the village of Dolton a lot of credit for making a mistake in voting in Tiffany A. Henyard, realizing that they made that mistake, putting together a recall campaign in order to oust her from office almost immediately, only for that recall campaign to end up being nerfed by a judge who of course decided that they were going to invalidate it, but then continuing to press on, continuing to fight back, until ultimately they ended up crushing Tiffany A. Henyard by electing trustee Jason House to the position of the Dolton mayor by a margin of like 88-12. It was an absolute obliteration, but that being said, there are dumb residents in the village of Dolton. There are absolute deuce, and if you think the reason that the super mayor is being targeted is because she's a woman doing all the things that a man have been doing, then you're not paying attention to anything that is going on in your village. But again, we're gonna bring you this final report of this final party for the super mayor, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
Self-proclaimed Super Mayor Tiffany Henyard leaves office in the next few weeks after being badly beaten at the ballot box. Questionable spending, clashes with trustees, and an ongoing FBI investigation led to her undoing.
So look, the local news gives us a breakdown of all the different things that led to the super mayor's undoing, led to her end, and honestly, in order for me to recap this, it would be basically impossible for you guys without making this video 3 hours long. So what I do in each and every one of these videos is I link my entire super mayor playlist from start to finish in the iCard and in the description of this video, so you could check out the nearly 30 videos that I've done documenting this woman and her reign of terror both in the village of Dolton and the Dolton Township. But what we're trying to focus on is the new information, the new revelations, and no, these are not just allegations, as the super mayor would say.
False allegations and not facts.
These are in fact the facts, which is that the super mayor was taking home a significantly higher salary than was reported previous based on the records, due to the fact that she essentially maxed out each and every perk.
I love y'all. There's nothing you can do about it.
The curtain will soon close on the Tiffany Henyard show, but not before one last dance.
Supervisor,
Oh, stop it, B.
come on now.
Go on, B.
People want to know what's next for
You
you.
know what's next? Why you out here? Why are you out here?
We were there for Henyard's final food giveaway and a new tally of what she's cost taxpayers. On Easter weekend, cars lined up for blocks. Tens of thousands of tax dollars spent for another one of Henyard's famous food giveaways.
So again, one of the things that I think is crucial for everybody to notice is that on each and every one of these boxes containing food is the Super Mayor Tiffany A. Henyard's name. And of course, these giveaways are major publicity stunts that she thought would win over the trust and love of the people. Because, you know, as she says, everything we do is for the people.
They want to hear from the mayor. If y'all ain't learned that yet, the mayor, not the trustees that don't do nothing, that only run their mouth. Y'all don't do no work, no work. That's my issue up here. So everybody that made a statement that said all they do is work, that's all they do is work. Anybody that know me, I am a workaholic. We work nonstop. We in this village till 11, 12 o'clock at night when y'all sleep, when y'all at the bars. Y'all. I'm sick and tired of y'all not doing y'all job. Name one ordinance that y'all did that benefited the people. One. Y'all can't name one, right? Because every ordinance y'all ever made was beneficial to you guys as trustees, to y'all attorneys, to y'all. But nothing for the people. But everything we do for the people. But we under attack. We getting scrutinized in the media. For what? Loving on the people? Showing them that they matter to us? We going through the fires for y'all. We. Us, me and my administration.
But in reality, what this actually is the super mayor operating as any left-wing authoritarian dictator would, which is steal a bunch of money from the people, rob them of their productivity, enjoy a lavish lifestyle on the taxpayer dime, and then throw them a little bit of food, get them to line up in order to get some free stuff, which is not free at all. It is paid for by the taxpayers, and pretend like you're this great humanitarian. Pretend like you are the savior of this particular area, as of course you are putting your image across the entire city on billboards and whatnot in order for people to worship you. And obviously this stunt from the super mayor didn't work. It hasn't worked. That's why she's out of office in both of her positions. However, in her last dying days, with her last breath, she is continuing to rob and of course give back crumbs to the tax base. And of course people are out there that didn't support the super mayor, but they just want some of their money back, and if that's going to be represented in food, then they're going to take it back in food.
Last run, and I did not vote for that woman, and I never didn't vote for her before, but I'm going to give me something to eat today.
I like the giveaways, but I don't like her. She's nasty.
She's giving us back what we already gave, but ain't nobody else doing that either.
So again, you could see right here from a bunch of the people that are taking this food, that are accepting this quote-unquote free stuff from the super mayor, there's not a lot of love for her as an individual, because they understand that this woman has looted far more money from them than she's actually given back in these kind of programs. Now, the local news ends up saying, well, some of the programs that the super mayor spends money on are good, and I just want to say, you're giving her too much credit, you're giving her too much deference, because even this specific program right here is all about her and getting her name on everything humanly possible so she can get the credit.
Tiffany Henyard does spend a lot of money, some of it on worthwhile programs, but she's also benefited handsomely and questionably. Newly obtained records show last year Henyard was paid more than $347,000 from Dolton and Thornton Township, the two governments she runs. That's more than Chicago's mayor makes. Henyard's comp includes $282,000 from the township, which also gave her a $4,900 per month expense allowance and an $1,100 monthly vehicle allowance. That's despite the fact Dolton taxpayers spent 6 figures on 2 SUVs police used to chauffeur Henyard.
So as previously talked about on this channel, the super mayor's salary from the Thornton Township was about $225,000, and her salary from the village of Dolton was in and around the $50,000 range. Now that already put her salary above what it costs to pay the Illinois governor. In fact, it makes her one of the most highest paid officials in the entire state of Illinois, but what we ultimately end up discovering is that you could stack an extra $75,000 on top of all of that. And what's even crazier than the nearly $5,000 in expenses that she was being paid, while still charging, by the way, the Thornton Township and the village of Dolton for her expenses and just pocketing that money, is that $1,100 vehicle allowance. Because you might say it makes sense for you to give somebody who is in this position $1,100 to make sure they could drive across the township to and from, and that's perfectly fine, that's perfectly adequate, and that's perfectly acceptable. But like I said, this is from the Thornton Township, that $1,100, not from the village of Dolton. So even though she was receiving $1,100 in order to pay for vehicle-related transportation, she was billing, in this very famous clip, the village of Dolton for a vehicle that she leased on absolutely horrible terms.
I sat here and looked at a lease that y'all was paying $149,000 for one of them trucks. You make that's like when you 19 years old and you go get a car and the interest rate 27%. That makes absolutely no sense. You're not making great finance. Excuse me?
Please state facts.
But let me tell you, here it is, dated December 27, 2022, the cash price of a 2023 Chevy Tahoe, $93,216.71. Interest and APR, $55,929.49. Total lease price $149,146.20. Tell me if it's not facts, because your signature is all on it.
I don't see that.
Okay, but you want me to pass?
I don't.
I mean, just think about how insane that is now that they've just revealed that she was receiving over $1,100 per month for vehicles that she was charging the village of Dolton, who again was not supposed to be giving her this allowance, $150,000 within that range for a Chevy Tahoe. And of course, over $50,000 of that bill was on interest and fees because she didn't bother to negotiate better terms on the lease. So she has all of this money in order to cover a vehicle. $1,100 is nothing to sneeze at in terms of payments for a vehicle. She didn't want to use that. She wanted to pocket that. So she ended up sticking the other taxpayers that didn't give her a vehicle allowance with the bill for it. Absolute madness. Everything that they said about this woman was 100% right, and she could do her dancing and her party and her food giveaway all she wants, but this woman was robbing you blind, not just for the salary, but again, for the nearly $6,000 in additional expenses that she just put right in her pocket. That was, again, just guaranteed to her.
Trustee Grant Everett, Supervisor Henyard.
And did we mention Henyard hasn't attended a single meeting since she lost re-election?
Why haven't you been to board meetings since your defeat? You don't want to answer? You're still getting paid. Why not go to the meetings?
Now again, also unsurprisingly, while she's making all this money, she's not showing up to the board meetings because she lost re-election, and therefore they do not deserve her presence at the government that she is still currently the head of. Again, it's like if you lost an election for president of the United States and you decided on the day after the election in November you weren't going to be president anymore, even though you're supposed to hold the office until January of the next year. This is what the Super Mayor is doing right now, and you could see her dodging questions, dancing, having a good time, celebrating at a taxpayer-funded event while she is not fulfilling the duties of her taxpayer-funded post.
Stephanie Wiedemann worked for the township for 20 years and blew the whistle on many of Henyard's antics.
If she had just said, oh, I made a mistake, everybody would have moved on. We pointed out the mistakes and she put on the show. You know, everybody paid attention because every 2 weeks it was like a sitcom.
Y'all are black, and y'all sitting up here beating and attacking on a black woman that's in power. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves.
You the ones that's costing the village money.
I don't have that call.
All right. What was she supposed to do? You wanted her to expound? Don't drag out the meeting. Listen,
Whoa, wait a minute. The local news is playing the y'all black, y'all beating and attacking on a black woman clip that's in power. How dare they? How dare they actually steal that clip from all of my videos covering the Super Mayor? Now I don't know what to do with this other than to just say, shame on y'all.
Shame on y'all.
Now again, all joking aside, none of us should be surprised by these recent developments from the Super Mayor. It is clear and obvious that she never cared about the people of the village of Dolton or the Thornton Township. She only cared about glorifying herself. So it's standard operating procedure for somebody like this who has pocketed so much money, not just more than the Chicago mayor, but more than the governor of Illinois, to decide that she's going to be a no-show for the last couple of days of work. And considering the last time the Super Mayor was at a Thornton Township board meeting, it quite literally turned into a brawl where she decided to jump in and throw hands, I am not surprised by these developments.
WGN Investigates has documented first-class trips for Henyard and her entourage that cost taxpayers well over $100,000. There was a stay at a Four Seasons and steak dinners. In late 2023, this was how she explained it.
I do not handle anything as relates to with credit cards. As you heard me speak today in my board meeting about, I do not handle that.
Some of those charges are for you, though.
No, sir.
You didn't go to Las Vegas? What is that?
No comment.
You don't know if you were in Las Vegas?
Of course I do.
Were you?
It's not paid by them.
Now look, I know WGN is feeling the way I'm feeling. I know they missed the Super Mayor. They're trying to bring her back, resurrect her, and throw her back in the news. But the fact that they're using all the different various clips that I show time and time again on this channel, honestly, I find to be disgraceful. You happen to be a very trustworthy source of news. I happen to be very much in the line of entertaining everybody out there in the audience. So when you start copying me, who is stealing the clips from you, that's when things get questionable. But as you can see right there, the reason this clip is so classic is because Tiffany A. Henyard is responding like a child to the questions related to her spending that, of course, they have documentation for. She's smiling, she's making goofy faces, and she, again, is not addressing the point. And this is because the super mayor never took accountability for any of her actions, and that's why she went down in flames.
Taxpayers are the ones stuck with the bill. The supervisor and others get unusual perks, including $600 a day for every day they travel out of state for the township, and $400 per day for travel within Illinois, plus the cost of their travel expenses.
So this is one of the crazy developments that I learned about this particular case that actually probably raises the super mayor's salary well above that $347,000 gross pay number, because they have set up a system where members of the Dolton Township Board of Supervisors are actually incentivized to leave the state because they get an extra $600 a day for expenses, allegedly, paid to them in their pocket. Now, I will point out that the super mayor, one of the scandals surrounding this, was charging money to the Dolton Township credit cards for these regular ordinary expenses. So she would get the $600 a day when she traveled out of state, $400 a day when she traveled in state, and then she wouldn't use that money for the expenses, and yet she would be allowed to keep it.
We asked Henyard's successor whether he agrees with the supersized paydays.
What you make is based upon what you are able to deliver. That's more so saying, like, people believe that professional athletes shouldn't get paid millions of dollars, that doctors should be, or teachers for that matter. So I'm not going to get here and go into a debate about what should be getting and what should be this salary of this.
So while on this channel, I've given a lot of praise to the members of the Village of Dolton's government, their board of trustees, for fighting back against the super mayor and running on a platform of cleaning house. The fact is that praise should not be directed to the new Dolton Township supervisor, because this guy right here is saying that his job is like being a professional athlete or being a medical doctor, and he's not going to get into how much you're getting compensated for all this different various travel. So the fact is, it is very likely that this scumbag who came in on the wave of the super mayor's controversies is going to act in similar ways. He's just going to keep a lower profile. So things might not get better if you're in the Dolton Township, unlike in the Village of Dolton, where they're actually committed to trying to clean up the mess that the super mayor made.
With what we've been through and how easily we saw it is to abuse the system, I think it's important that the residents pay attention and continue to pay attention and continue to hold people accountable.
Despite it all, the spending, a questionable cancer charity, an ongoing FBI investigation, and even a brawl at a board meeting, Henyard still has her supporters.
So look, it is true there are dumb people that do support the super mayor. They're about to show the same clip of the woman saying she's just doing what men do. But again, show me the man with all these different various controversies that is still in power. Show me the man who managed to pull all of this off within one term, one 4-year stretch, and hadn't had his career destroyed. It's absolutely crazy that these people, anybody, supports the super mayor. But I do think it is important for all of us to understand that the terms of politicians are short, but legends like the super mayor last forever. Now, of course, those are just my thoughts related to this whole situation. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the super mayor stealing a lot more than anybody thought. Till next time.